I'm back. I know you all missed me, and I am back. We got Jay filling in for JB this week, or as he likes to call him, not JB, but pretty close. Last week he was not Jake, but pretty close. Now he's not JB, but pretty close. He just, Jay is just whoever he feels like being each week. And obviously we got John. It looks like, John, is that in a garbage stadium in Florida? I see. Is it a
No, I'm not at the
team?
Jaguars or Bucks stadium.
Are you at the stadium of a 3-2 team? Because it looks
I'm
pretty
chilling
gross,
down here with Eric Wilson in the sunny weather
fine.
in Florida. Yeah, he's just chilling. He's in the suites right now, hanging out with some great players while I do the show.
Oh, John, you're in a 3-2 team. Jay, what team are you a fan of again?
Texans. We're 1-3-1.
You're gonna have a rough team. Hey,
yeah.
That means, John, on this panel, my New York Football Giants are the best record-wise. The 4-1 New York Giants are better than the Texans, which, no offense, Jay, that's not saying anything at all.
We know what it is.
And look, you admit it, and that's fine. But John, we're
deep in the heart of a rebuild.
Record-wise, we're better than the Dolphins.
You know what?
Who would have saw this coming before the season?
Jake, I saw the rest of your schedule, and y'all have a realistic shot at winning 11 games.
JB and I were texting.
I mean, a realistic shot at winning 11 games.
You say that. JB and I texted the other day. Let's see. I'm going to pull up our conversation. I want to say it was Sunday, maybe? Sunday. And we both agreed. We said, realistically, 10 wins is the minimum for this team, just based on schedule. Nothing else. Just based on the strength of schedule, 12 wins is realistic. Now, obviously, 10 wins is realistic.
Even if it's a game that you're supposed to win that you let get away from you, 9's still not bad.
No, but and that's my point. Now, Gren, you have to understand we play games for a reason, right? If we could just sit at a desk and say, they win this game, then where's the fun in that? So the Giants could potentially lose every single game for the rest of the season. It's pretty unlikely. I don't think that's going to happen. But again, that's why we play the games. But the Giants winning 10 games isn't out of reach.
Let me ask you this: how realistic is it they have a shot at DJ Moore?
Man, I don't know.
Because they need a receiver. They don't have any. I mean, I can't say they don't have anything because Slayton has been really solid for them. Like, the only guy that's come through receiver-wise. Like, everybody else has just been garbage, but he's come through. I have no idea where Tony is. Like,
John,
I don't know if it's an injury or if they just don't want him.
It's an injury, I can tell you that. So to answer your question quickly, I don't know that they have a good shot, and the real reason I don't know what our salary cap looks like, and what I mean by that is
but I'm just saying, like, the odds of you going after.
I know, but so the reason I say that was because I don't know what the salary cap looks like, and there are, even for a 4-1 team, I'm not going to pretend like we're a top 10 team. We're not. If I went through all the teams in the league, I think they're, even the Dolphins are a team I think that are still better than the Giants, even with a worse record.
Yeah, Jake.
I don't think there's real debate.
How many shows did we do? Remember the Steelers went all the way up to 11-0.
Of course I remember.
And we were like, they're not this good,
Yeah, no. So for a 4-1 team, I think they're good, and I think they deserve a top half of the league respect. I think
Brian
they deserve
Dable
that
deserves all the credit in the world
because they've won some really impressive games, especially against the Packers last week. I give the Giants a lot of credit. That was an impressive win, and I will talk more about this. Shameless plug. You will see more about this at the end of the week when we have the NFL carousel. I will be back this week. But anyway,
Alex Fleming's NFL carousel.
Absolutely. So not the point of what I'm getting at is I don't know what the salary cap looks like, and there are still quite a few holes that I would like fixed, and I think the team as a whole knows that. I think DJ Moore is more likely to go to a legit contender right now. I could see a team like we've talked about this before. I think Kansas City has a real shot at him.
Imagine the Packers.
Packers, absolutely. I think those are teams that have a legitimate shot at getting DJ Moore. Teams that are in win now mode, because the Giants can use him. But the truth is, and I say this as a Giants fan with legitimate concern. If you look at what he's doing right now, the reason he's not playing well is he got bad quarterback play. If he goes to New York, is he really going to get any much improvement?
Yeah.
Yes, Baker Mayfield and Daniel Jones aren't great quarterbacks, but point being, he needs a great quarterback to help him be able to produce properly. Because if somebody isn't feeding the ball right,
he's always had
he does, but also
garbage. And
I know that, but my point is, look at what he's doing with Baker Mayfield, right? A guy that's not getting him the ball right. I don't know that Daniel Jones is the quarterback for that. I think the Giants
at least
are built
Sam
around.
Darnold was able to give him the ball last year. Like
Right,
Baker Mayfield can't even hit water. If he fought out of a boat.
I think for the Giants, their offense is predicated around Saquon Barkley, and I think for them, they are going to save their pennies and all their dollars and all that for the offseason when Saquon is a free agent to go after him, because they realize with a healthy Saquon and an okay Daniel Jones that basically does what Jimmy Garoppolo does, right? Where he does enough to help win a game, but he doesn't do enough to lose it, right? Just perfect game managing. Mm-hmm. This team can win games as long as they can shore up that offensive line and keep the defense healthy. It's a team that can win. I think they would rather go after Saquon. I think Dable really loves him. I think this team loves him. He's a homegrown player. That's why I don't think DJ Moore is in the cards. I would love to get him, but I'd rather save my money for a guy that we can use in our offense properly. I don't know that DJ Moore would be used to his fullest potential, and he might be kind of a waste, and I don't want that for such a special talent like him.
With Daniel Jones, and I'll ease the gas off of him for a little bit. Number one, he has been kind of running for his life. So, I mean, I'm not going to, sit there and slam him for it. They do need to improve on that offensive line. But here's also a question for you. If the Giants do, let's just say what we talked about earlier, the Giants somehow win 10 games. Is that justification to keep Daniel Jones, or do you trade up and go get C.J. Stroud?
No. You don't keep Daniel Jones.
No, John, I don't think that's fair to say. I think we have to see what he does the rest of the season, because we're only 5 games in. There's not enough to say.
There's not enough. It's what is this, year 3 or 4?
No, John, this is his best season, though. He's cutting down on turnovers. He's making better plays in the pocket. His offensive line is still garbage, which is a huge issue. And he actually looks not good, but better.
This is his best season, and you're asking me if it's justified to keep him. If this is his best season,
it's week 5, John. I'm not sitting here telling you keep him. I'm just saying there is a chance he continues to improve upon the season he's having to make it a case to keep him.
It could be the coaches too. It could be the coaches. Look at Alex Smith. How many coaches has he been through before he started getting good? And you look at Daniel Jones and his abilities at his absolute best. Absolute best, he's Alex Smith, which isn't bad. Alex? Yeah, he won games in KC at his absolute best. He's Alex Smith.
Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like Daniel Jones is the next Tom Brady. I'm not claiming that. But all I'm saying is his turnovers are down. He's got 2 interceptions in we're in 5 games now. For him, and for really anybody, that's pretty good. That means at the pace he's going at, we'll say a 15-game pace, because while there is more than 15 weeks, it's just a round number, right? So you do 5 by 3. He would only have 6 interceptions. So 6 interceptions, on the season would be really great. Because for me, like I said with Jimmy G as the comparison, if he's a game manager and the rest of the offense plays well enough to win games and the defense is solid, which is how the Giants won their Super Bowls. Eli Manning was a solid quarterback. He wasn't going to, blow the brakes off and be like Josh Allen will or Lamar Jackson, right? The guys of now. But he was good. He did his job. He played his role, and that was what we wanted. If Daniel Jones continues to do what he is doing currently, I would be okay with it if we can win with him. That's what I want. It's about winning with your quarterback.
So I'm looking at his stats. He hasn't thrown a touchdown in the last 3 games.
It's fine. I understand.
71 yards versus Chicago.
That game was all.
The Green Bay game was the first time he broke 200 yards this year. He's thrown a touchdown in just, like I said, 2 games. 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. Like, come on, man. I mean,
John,
no offense, but Josh Allen threw 4 touchdowns in less than a half, and this guy's thrown 3 touchdowns in 5 games.
To be fair, you're neglecting the fact that in the first game he was sacked 5 times, the second game he was sacked 3 times, the third game he was sacked 5 times, and only in the last 2 weeks he's only been sacked
I'm just
once.
saying, like, it's like Justin Fields. Like when I watch what they're doing with Justin Fields, and it drives me mad what the Bears are doing. But it's like they either don't believe in him or he's just bad. And it's like, well, if that's what you think of your QB, then go get a different one next year, because like you either let Daniel Jones fly. I get the line is bad, but that's not going to change, Jake. And
right, but that's not the way this offense is built.
Fly. You can, he has 3 touchdowns. He hasn't thrown a touchdown in 3 games.
That's not the way this offense is built, though.
No, I know that, but if you want to win games, if you want to beat the Eagles and Cowboys, you got to do better than 3 touchdowns and 2 picks.
I'm not arguing that. But, John, we're also talking about a 5-game sample.
No, I know.
We're talking about 5 games. That's it. I haven't seen this with this coach, with the first competent coach I have seen with the Giants since Tom Coughlin. I have seen 5 games of Daniel Jones. And you know what? While he hasn't been great, like I said, he's been competent. His turnovers are down. He is making better plays. Even though his numbers aren't great, he as a player, as the eye test, they have looked better. He also has 4 wins, John. So I'm not sitting here telling you keep him.
And this isn't a slight against Daniel Jones. This is me saying, like Justin Fields or like Tua before Mike McDaniel came. Like, if you're going to draft a guy like that, or if you're going to have a guy like that, you got to give him a chance to play football. Like Trey Lance, before he got hurt, like the Niners really weren't giving him a chance to throw the football. Why do you have him in at quarterback if you're not going to let him play quarterback? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a knock on Daniel Jones. It's just they're either a franchise quarterback or they're not.
But you don't.
Like,
but John,
and we got to see
Jimmy
that.
G is the perfect example I keep using. Jimmy G is not a franchise quarterback. He's just the guy to help win games. He does just enough to help them win. That's it.
Then I guess that answers the question that Jay had of, is it justified to bring him back? No.
But so you would go winning. It is.
So if it were you, John, would you go get CJ or Bryce Young?
I mean, for me, I would have to see what they do this year, and I would have to analyze the tape and their pro days and things like that.
So you'll give them the time to see what they do, but you won't give Daniel Jones.
I want to see how they do on their pro days. I want to see how they do at the combine. I want to see that culmination of everything. I want to see all of it, because whenever I'm thinking about drafting a prospect, I like to take everything into consideration, not just say, well, this is CJ Stroud, so I have to take him. Like, no, I want to know everything about him before I fall on that decision. Even though I'm not a GM, if that's my way of thinking.
To be fair, also, John, I don't know that we're going to have a chance at them. And I say that because we've won 4 games out of 5 already. So even if we slow down our pace and we get 8, 9, 10 wins,
you're going to do exactly what JB says you guys are. Not bad enough to get a top 5 pick, but not good enough to make the playoffs.
Middle of the pack.
Jeff Fisher world.
Middle of the pack.
But again, if Daniel Jones continues to improve and play better than he has in past seasons, I would be accepting. I'm not saying give him this, roll out the red carpet, give him a Dak Prescott kind of deal. I'm saying give him another 1-year deal or a 2-year deal maybe. And don't pay him crazy, because I think he's going to know his market is not there.
So you declined the option. They declined it, right?
They declined the option to see what they do this year. So I think the way to do it is just give him another year or 2 if he plays well enough this season, to give him that way he has multiple years under Brian Daboll, because Brian Daboll, I can tell you, with the way things have started, is likely not going anywhere. And after 2-3 seasons, if he's still really disappointing, I guarantee you there will be somebody else. There will be another CJ or Bryce Young. There's going to be another guy out there that will be talented enough to get. That's all.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's a bad idea. I just think he's proven enough to me this year so far that he's not worth losing his job yet. Doesn't mean he keeps it forever. But speaking of losing his job, John, I know you want to talk about this. So I will introduce the topic, and then I'm going to roll out the red carpet for you, good sir, and let you take away. Matt Rule has been fired by the Carolina Panthers, and John, I don't think I know anybody that's been more vocal and more, really gunning for somebody's job than you. You have been calling for Matt Rule's head since last season. Not that you are in the minority to believe that. Many people felt that way. But, John, take it away, my man. Talk to us. What's going on?
Bye-bye, Matt Rule, you piece of garbage as a head coach. I mean, this guy's going to get so much money from the Panthers. The ownership was just stupid for giving him such a giant contract. I mean, you should have given him a smaller contract. A guy that's never been a head coach in the NFL. I absolutely love the talent for the most part on the Panthers. And I feel like they've just absolutely wasted all that talent for these couple years. Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Brian Burns. You got lucky enough to get you got Chen. Like, you got so many guys, and you're wasting that talent. You went and got JC Horn. Like, with a competent coach, I feel like this team could win 9-10 games, be a wild card team, and and be scary because how good
anything can happen in the playoffs once you get there.
But Matt Rule is so incompetent. The front office, like, sometimes they make good moves. I like the Gilmore move last year, and then they turn around and they went and got Sam Darnold. I didn't like that, but I was like, hey, I understand the thinking. Like, maybe the Jets, were like the bad one and not Sam Darnold. No, it just turns out Sam Darnold sucks. They thought the same thing with Baker
Sam
Mayfield.
Darnold does suck.
Yeah, they've thought the same thing with Baker Mayfield. Well, he looked average.
You know what it is? It's
Cleveland.
Hold on.
Maybe
with Sam
we can
Darnold,
fix
it's just USC quarterbacks. Mark Sanchez.
It's the same thing with Baker.
It's the same thing.
I've always thought he was an average quarterback. There's nothing special about him. When you look at him, he's not athletic. He doesn't throw the ball too terribly well. He does have a strong arm, but like, he doesn't read defenses too terribly well. Whenever he gets high in his emotions, that's great. But whenever he's not on that high, it's like, okay, you got like, you know what I mean? It's like he's on Red Bull, but not right now. He's not on Red Bull, so like, you're getting a not excited Baker Mayfield. Like, that was a dumb move. They're just so, and then Matt Rule is just 1-12 in his last 13, or 1-11 in his last 12 games, 1-11 I think it is. That is just unacceptable. That's worse than Adam Gase. It's worse than Matt Nagy. Like, this is awful.
It's on par with that level of stink.
And I'm not one to call for people's jobs, because I understand, you want to get paid, you have a job to do. Right. I get it.
It's not easy. We couldn't go sit there and do it ourselves, and we know.
But I make an exception. I always make an exception, and this is the case for Urban Meyer, Adam Gase, Matt Nagy, Matt Rule. Matt Patricia, some of the worst head coaches I've ever seen in my entire life. I've watched this game for over 30 years, and those are some of the worst coaches I've ever seen. I never want to see them coach a game again in my life. Nathaniel Hackett, one of the worst coaches I've ever seen. I've only seen a couple games.
Nathaniel Hackett's too hard to judge for me.
If I was the Broncos, I would get rid of that guy right now.
I would too.
Bad. Like, I think he's that bad. He has to have a babysitter, or does he need diapers too? Like, come on, man.
And then,
so anyway,
real quick on the Nathaniel Hackett thing, Russell Wilson apparently had a shoulder injury now. I gotta be honest. Of
course, he conveniently has it after that.
I'm sure that every single player is banged up in some way. We know that, but this was just. To me, it felt like they just came out and said
Fernando Tatis who just happened to find ringworm or whatever.
That came out, it feels like to me, just to protect him, to be like, oh, well, this is why he's playing bad. I don't believe that. I don't really believe that.
$265 million, and you can't score a touchdown. If he looks to the right, the game winner's right there. If he looks to the right. Like, everyone was like, what are you doing? And you know what? Because, what was it? I can't remember. I think it was on the gauntlet. But someone said, and you know what? This Thursday, we got the Bears and the Commanders. I said, if either team can score one touchdown, it's already better than last week.
I was going to say, better than last week. Russell Wilson, to me, looks like this. He doesn't move. He's just watching. Look, I can't play football for the life of me, okay? I know that. That's why I sit here and talk about these things. But come on, man. I could tell you, don't stare down the receiver you're going to throw to. Look, I'm not telling you that the defense has to be, Ed Reed or Ray Lewis or any of those guys that were super special and just some of the smartest. But they don't need to be that level. They need to be, like, smart enough to be able to look where his eyes are and go, he's looking at only one guy. I think he's going to throw it over there. He's not even trying to hide where he's going. It's so blatantly obvious. You know what? They keep saying, let Russ cook. I would say Russ looks like he is cooked right now. It is painful to watch.
Let Russ cook. I'd rather order takeout.
I agree. At this point, honestly, we talk about Daniel Jones. I'd rather let Daniel Jones cook, because you know what? He's got 4 wins.
Daniel Jones doing better than us right now.
He looks better to me right now because at least he doesn't stare down his receiver and go, oh, I'm going to stare at you for 3 seconds and then throw it to you. At least Daniel Jones makes his reads.
Matt Ryan reminded me of the guy from Friday that gets beat up by Debo. And he has the big black eye and his eyes like out to here or whatever.
Red.
Like he reminds me of that, like after that Thursday night game, he reminded me of that guy from Friday with how bad he got his ass kicked.
Yep.
But somehow the Colts won the game.
They somehow win that game.
Explain to me how in holy hell did the Colts win that game? Like,
you know what it is, John?
I still don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how the Colts won.
John, somebody had to win. It just happened
because someone had to win.
Somebody had to win.
But you get a performance like you got from the Broncos defense, and you have Russell Wilson and Cortland Sutton, and you have a lot of weapons. Jerry Jeudy, like you have weapons, and Hackett was offensive coordinator with Aaron Rodgers, and you can't score 1 touchdown. I mean, there were so many times where Sutton was wide open, and Russell Wilson just overthrows him, underthrows him.
Yeah, he looks terrible. He does.
And the defense couldn't have done any more to Matt Ryan besides him actually dying on the field.
I'm going to say one of the craziest things that I never thought we would say, especially before the season started. But right now, between Geno Smith, who took Russell Wilson's job when he left, and Russell Wilson, Geno Smith looks like what Russell Wilson should look like, and Russell Wilson looks like Geno Smith should look like. It is day and night between the two. And if you told me before this season started that Russell Wilson's team would have a better record, but Geno Smith would be the by far better looking quarterback, I would tell you, you're insane. I don't know what drugs you're on, but please tell me what they are and where you got them, because I would like to see the world as you're seeing it right now.
That if Russell Wilson had his Seattle defense right now on the Broncos and he took away that Broncos defense, they wouldn't have a win. Like
they'd be winless. They'd be terrible.
So he's lucky that defense is carrying his ass.
Geno Smith is having to put up like 35, 40 plus a game in losses.
And he's
if Russell Wilson had his defense, they'd be 0-5. Easily.
But you know what? If you gave Geno Smith the Broncos defense, they might be undefeated right now. How about that?
They very well could.
Because Geno Smith looks great. And that's not even me being hyperbolic. He legitimately looks amazing.
The only ones who would say something against that is because they remember the old Geno. That's not the case anymore.
You know what?
That's not the case. Geno is a different man this year.
Russell Wilson looked like, and he doesn't look like that right now.
He doesn't look like him.
He looks terrible. So it's just painful. Before we move on, because I assume there's not much else to be said about the Panthers firing Matt Rule.
No, bye-bye, Matt Rule. You don't ever come back to the NFL.
Russell Wilson just looks terrible. Again, don't think there's much to say about that real quick. Before we move on, though, Jay, I wanted you to come on today for a specific reason, actually. And I'm fairly certain you didn't know this was coming. Jay, myself and John are in a fantasy football league, not the one with you. We have a different one that we are in. And John lost this week to Travis Kelce, a Monday Night Miracle. It happens.
Yeah,
but the reason I bring that up, John,
hold on.
But John, I'm not bringing that up to dismiss you, actually. I'm bringing it up because Jay and I, in a different fantasy football league, in the Sideline Sports Analyst League that we have, that John, you declined to be in, which was totally understandable. Jay and I played each other this week, and Jay got a Monday Night Miracle. Jay got his Monday Night Miracle by getting Travis Kelce to score 30-plus points against me. But what Jay also got was the fact that I had Josh Jacobs to give me also a Monday Night Miracle with 30-plus points, and I managed to beat Jay with a final score of 154 to 146. And I just wanted to say, Jay, you should have won this week. Your team played incredibly, but apparently Josh Jacobs knew that and decided, screw Jay, I'm going to kick the life out of everybody right now because he looks amazing.
He was great.
The best steals in all of fantasy football. So I had to bring that up, not because, Jay, I'm even attempting to disregard what your team did, because Travis Kelce scored 4 touchdowns, 7 receptions for 25 yards, but 4
Touchdowns.
Crushed it. And you couldn't manage to win in the most painful and unfortunate, I feel so bad. Oh, I'm happy to win.
I feel your pain.
But you're not bringing up the elephant in the room. What if I told you, because the final score was like 6 points, right?
It's like
about 8, I think. But yeah,
about 8 points. You know what really won it for you? You got the Raiders kicker. He put up 16 points.
He sure did.
Ooh.
Yep. There was your elephant in the room right there.
Oh yeah.
If you hadn't had them, I would have had a chance.
We got 16 from a kicker and a miracle from Travis Kelce all in one night.
John, he scored 33.5 points with Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
I scored 46.3 between Josh Jacobs and Daniel Carlson to win the match.
Good gosh, what a epic classic game.
It was.
I hope you guys played the playoffs.
Great.
It was great. I'm sure we're going to see each other again this season.
I hope you rematch down the road in the playoffs.
He and I are in the same division, and I'm currently the top team.
And
not only our division, but the entire league. I'm 4-1. Look, he is going to be my biggest concern, and I know that.
I mean,
that was.
If you didn't have the Raiders kicker, I would have won.
That was a battle.
Because he was nailing long balls, and I was like, he's killing me right now.
That's why I love having Daniel Carlson, because you know what?
Yes.
He is a great kicker, but also the Raiders are just mediocre enough to get it into field goal territory for him, but then not score touchdowns, which makes him the perfect kicker.
I respect that you're smart enough, Jake, in fantasy to understand that, not just say, well, this guy's a great scorer. Like, you look at it and you're like, well, I know the Raiders just can't get in the end zone unless it's like a 50-yard touchdown to Devontae. So guess what? I got Josh Jacobs and Carlson.
If they want to throw to Devontae every single play and they score me 6 touchdowns and I get 6 extra points, I'll take 6 points. I'm not going to be upset. I'm cool with that. But I have him in, I think 2 or 3. I have 2 leagues that I have him in. And the other league, I have Tyler Bass. 3 leagues have kickers. I mean, I pick guys that are either going to score me a lot of touchdowns and get me extra points, or guys that are on teams that are going to do exactly what I just described. That's the way you got to do it.
It literally was like that the whole game, John. Like, he would go up by like 4 or 5, and then Kelce would score a touchdown. Now I'm up like 1 or 2. Then Jacobs would run the ball, and then he'd get a lead by like 5-6 points, and then Kelce touchdown. So now it's tied. It was just like this Kelce Jacobs like kind of slugfest.
Yeah,
and then Carlson was back here like, hi, boom, long ball.
So I'd like to point this last thing out, and then I want to move on to some baseball. Daniel Carlson has played 5 weeks. In every single game, he has put up a minimum of 9 points. And I say that because his average points on the season is 12.4. The reason I say that is there are some players, some tight ends, or even sometimes wide receivers or even running backs who are not averaging that many points in a single game in fantasy. He has been unbelievable. And so the reason I say that, and all of this leads back to one simple thing that people seem to forget. Kickers are people too. Don't forget that, people at home. And I'm not just saying for fantasy, for real life, kickers are people too. Thank you very much. That is my rant. Now, on to some baseball. Jay, we will talk about the New York Mets because I cannot wait to make fun of them shortly. But before we get to that, I want to turn it to you to let you talk about your Astros a little bit because I am a Yankees fan with a lot of pride. But I got to tell you, that was a heck of a game this afternoon / this evening. And I have to say that as much as I hated watching the Astros win, that was a pretty good game. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, my cardiac Stros. Seattle jumps out to, a 4-0 lead, and it's like, okay, Minute Maid's kind of quiet. And I'm like, okay, they're in our division. We won the season series 12 games to 7 and everything, but playoffs could be a different animal. And Rodriguez came out swinging. Everyone on Seattle came out swinging. They actually ended the game with more hits than us, ladies and gentlemen. They did. They went up. Astros start coming back. Okay, it's like 4-2. I'm like, all right, then cool, good. And then Seattle stretches out again, not 7-2. And then home run, and then the walk off. Just like that, it was like 7-5, and then 8-7, and then that was it. It was the Stros just kept fighting. You know, Justin Verlander, and I mean, don't get me wrong, like he had a test today. I believe he's the runaway AL Cy Young. You know, what this man is doing at the age of 39, y'all, 39 years old. I don't know if they made his arm during Tommy John the Winter Soldier arm or what's going on, because he somehow came out better post-surgery. Better. You know,
it's unbelievable.
He's definitely the runaway Cy Young. I'm not exactly going to call a sweep right now. I'm going to say Houston 3-1, but we barely got away with one today. Ariel Jordan is probably next year's AL MVP, probably. As a matter of fact, little known fact, he actually ranked second to Aaron Judge in home runs in the American League, but the gap is astronomical because, like, Jordan had 37 and then Judge had 62.
Don't forget, though, Jordan did miss a bunch of times, so you have to give him that.
He did.
He could have easily made it a lot closer had he not missed as much time as he did. I mean, I don't recall exactly how many games he missed, but missing enough time to certainly change. You know, Jordan could have easily had 40-plus homers. Now, Judge still would have had the lead by, 15, 20 probably. But there's no doubt that Jordan could have had 40-plus home runs this year. There's no question in my mind about that. I don't think he gets enough love. I think, again, look, this is coming from a Yankees fan who doesn't like this team at all, but he's fantastic. And there's no question that, in my opinion, if he didn't get hurt, he would have had a chance at the MVP. I don't know that he would have won because Judge was in the race for a Triple Crown and he breaks the record. He does all these incredible things. He's going to win because of those things. And he had a great season, of course. But Jordan is quietly being overlooked. And I think for me, if I had to pick a 1, 2, 3, I go Judge, Ohtani, probably Alvarez at 3 in my MVP voting right now. Yeah. He was something special. There's no question. Yeah. And I think Justin Verlander also deserves some MVP consideration. And he won't get it because he doesn't hit like Ohtani does. But the award is most valuable player. Okay, value. Yes. What does Justin Verlander do? Oh, I don't know. Goes out and just crushes everybody again after Tommy John. That's pretty great value, if you ask me. To have your ace do stuff like that, that's the value. That's what makes a player so important. I think that's kind of it's been lost. So again, he won't get the proper votes, and that's just what it is.
You bring up the
deserves
really quick. You brought up Ohtani. And this is the funny part about the Mariners making the playoffs. The AL West actually sent 2 teams from the division to the postseason. This is what I find funny about the Mariners making the playoffs. On the Los Angeles Angels, and maybe the hype train needs to come to a screeching halt. On the Los Angeles Angels are 2 players who a lot of people consider are the best players in baseball. Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout. They can't even sniff a wild card. They can't even sniff a wild card.
Ohtani is just special. He's in his own category. And Mike Trout, he's easily one of the best defenders and just outfielders in general in baseball as a whole. I mean, the only guys up there right now, just based on this season alone, we're probably talking about Jordan, whose defense is okay, but not as great, but he's a great hitter. Judge and Mike Trout. And that's pretty much those are your top outfielders. I mean, I don't know if there's much else.
I mean, for comparison to football, imagine having Pat Mahomes and Justin Jefferson on the same team and only winning 7 games.
Yeah. It's kind of
don't make sense, don't
it? It's kind of ridiculous. Yeah. But speaking of ridiculous and things that don't make sense, the New York Mets, guys, look, the Mets make this kind of terrible run every year where something happens.
I know you're loving it. I know you're loving it.
But guys, this might be the worst collapse yet. Because at least in other years, they just don't make the playoffs. So the hype just dies and that's the end of it. At least they just don't make the playoffs. And I'm like, whatever.
This was the second worst Mets collapse I've ever seen.
This is so bad because of the fact that DeGrom and Scherzer, 2 of the best pitchers when healthy in the game, on the same team,
Rock.
That's what makes it so great.
They get beat by the Padres?
That's what makes it so great.
I get the Padres offensively are a strong team. There's no question. But you get beat by look, if you lose to the Dodgers in the next round, fine. But guys, you had a 10.5 game lead. Now, understandably, you have to remember the Falcons. The Braves played really well. Atlanta went berserk.
I saw what you did just now.
It's not just that.
But hold on.
Call the Mets to collapse the Falcons.
Exactly. It's that bad. But look, as well as Atlanta played, the Mets had a series against them. All they had to do was win games against them.
I got to check your ear. I got to check your ear for the.
And they didn't even come close to beating Atlanta in that series. I mean, that is where the colossal collapse really hit its peak for me, if you're asking me, because that was the opportunity to say, hey, you know what? We're not going to let them take first place from us. They are playing really well, and we understand it, but we're not letting them take first place. Instead, they just bent over and said, have it. Just leapfrog us. Just take it, please.
It's not just that the Mets lost. It's how they lost, like you said. It wasn't that they just got knocked out and they had this great team. You had a double-digit lead on the Mets. Everybody's celebrating like, oh, they're going to win this division.
Yeah.
Braves come roaring back. Then you push the lead all the way back up to almost 10 games again. Then the Braves come all the way back, take the division from you. So instead of you having a bye and playing the Phillies right now, you have to go to the wild card round, and you go to the wild card round, and then
possibly
you don't survive.
If you win.
Yes, and you don't survive, and then you get the embarrassing thing where you're checking Musgrove's ear in a game, and Mets fans aren't happy. You get blown out, in the elimination game, and it's not just that they lose; it's how they lose it. They're one of those teams. I said this last night on Sports Arena. They're one of those teams in sports that always find a way to do this. The Browns do it, the Chargers do it, the Lions do it, the Mets do it. Like, there's teams in sports that you can count on, like clockwork. The Knicks, no offense, Jake, but the Knicks are one of those teams like that. They're just snake bitten no matter what they do, no matter who they have. They find new ways to lose games. They're one of those teams.
That is, I think, that last statement. They find new ways to lose games. You're absolutely correct about that.
If you wear blue and orange in New York, you already know what time it is.
Yeah, that's.
Is it that Timmy the trumpet guy? No, wait, they can't play him because they're getting blown out.
Oh, look, I mean, you say that, but you know what they did when they were losing in Game 3? They brought out Edwin Diaz and still played the song as if it was acceptable.
Did they play the trumpet?
They absolutely did.
Oh my gosh!
No,
I can't believe
that.
This when Scherzer got booed off the mound.
To lose.
It was awful. And John, you said this is only the second worst collapse. So I got to ask you, what's the worst then? Because this is at least they made the playoffs, but then they lose in the playoffs in embarrassing fashion, which to me is arguably even more embarrassing.
So a couple of years ago, not a couple, but it was a little while ago. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, but they were up. They had 17 games to go, and I believe they were up 10 games in their division. 17 games left. Now, mathematically, that's impossible to be up 10 games with 17 to go. And
John, now hold on. If you tell the Mets something is mathematically impossible, you presented a challenge to them to tell you you're wrong. Don't say that.
Teams are like, okay, like we can play bad ball and still find a way to win this division. Like 17 left, up by 10. Like there's almost no way to lose it. And the Mets did it, and it was one of the most beautiful things. I have nothing against the Mets. It's just their pain is funny to me. It's funny to me. Like, I enjoy whenever they get their hopes up, and then it's like Cowboy fans. They get their hopes up every year, and we all know it's coming. And then as soon as they come crashing down, whether it's in the playoffs and Dez doesn't catch it, or Aaron Rodgers throws an insane pass on a rope in Dallas to break their hearts, or whatever, or the Cowboys have a big plans, and then they win just 8 games.
And then they go do the Cowboys.
They're going to find a way to Cowboy it. Yeah.
It's just so beautiful whenever it comes to fruition because their fans are just so devastated. And it's like, this is like chef's kiss. This is like, thank you for the lasagna and the spaghetti. Thank you.
Mets fans see this coming. I know they do.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
Really?
Mets fans are delusional?
Do Cowboy
Some
fans
of these Mets fans know this is going to happen.
Do
because
Cowboy
if you
fans
ask
see
Mets
this?
fans,
Cowboys fans are definitely delusional.
Oh,
Gotcha.
they are. Mets fans know how bad this team is, and they know it before the season. But during the season is when they lose sight of what's going to happen. That's what makes it extra funny. Cowboys fans are just delusional the whole time.
Yes.
But Mets fans admit it before the season starts or when the season ends. But during the season, this year's different, guys. We got this. We're going to be fine. Everything's going to be great. And then they do it again anyway. That's what makes Mets fans so special and perfect, because they seem like everything is terrible in the offseason. And then they know during the season what should happen, but they pretend like it somehow won't. And then it happens, and they are at a loss for words, because of course you are. Because name another team that blows a 10.5 game lead, gets swept by another team to lose the division and go down multiple games. Nobody else is that terrible.
Speaking of which, during that choking streak, they were swept by the Cubs, ladies and gentlemen. The Chicago Cubs. They were swept. And I mentioned on Confidential, I was like, they just gave away the division.
Yep.
It was one of our questions. I was like, did they just give Atlanta the division?
They sure did.
You were right.
And you gotta beat bad teams at least. And they didn't. And that's just one example, of course, but that's a good example of, they didn't beat a bad team. And had they beat a bad team, wouldn't have mattered. This wouldn't be a problem.
You figure the Cubs on the schedule, okay, all right, so we should jump back up to, X many games. You get swept.
If you win 2 of those games, you're fine. 2 of those games.
Fine. It's like just don't turn the ball over in this game and we'll win. Hey, Falcons, 28-3. Just don't turn the ball over. Oh, what do? You decide to pass. You're gonna get cocky. Strip sack fumble. Oh, yeah, and all of a sudden you lose. Or
John, speaking of that, real quick. 2 things we got to talk about. So I do want to talk about what we saw this last week with the Falcons, actually, funny enough.
Beautiful.
But before we talk about that, I just want to touch on this because I was talking to one of my buddies this last week, and we were talking about the Thursday Night Football game, to go back to that, and you reminded me that we had this conversation. So thank you for unintentionally reminding me. Matt Ryan seemed to have learned nothing from that Super Bowl, because if you rewatch Thursday Night Football, which I don't implore you to do because that game sucked.
Please don't.
But if you so choose, because I'm telling you about this, there was a moment where the Colts had a chance to kick a field goal, and I remember watching it and seeing Matt Ryan just go, I'm going to take a sack and another sack. And he did the same thing he did in the Super Bowl in the regular season. He did it again, and all I can think is, did you not learn what happened?
To be fair,
stop trying to leave the pocket and sometimes just take the sack like a man. Instead, he ran out of the pocket, 10, 15 yards and just sent them back.
To be fair, if you watch that atrocious game, Browning would start on the defensive end, and he would stop, and he would do a stunt, and he would come back around to the middle, and he would go after Matt Ryan, and he kept doing it, and
they didn't learn.
The Colts offensive line couldn't figure it out, and I watched it, and the announcers are like, "Oh wow, he did another stunt, the same move," and him and Bradley Chubb, kept doing the same thing: stunt, stop, come back, middle, and it was wide open almost every time, and it was
painful.
Like, how are you guys not picking this up? They're playing Madden and running the same play every time.
Literally,
you have no idea that that's coming.
I agree. But going to the next topic, and this will be our final topic, I think, for this evening. We got about 13 minutes. So, what is the NFL doing with roughing the passer? Look, I know Tom Brady gets a lot of calls because he's Tom Brady. And I know they wanted to protect quarterbacks. And I am all for it. Quarterbacks are obviously very important just because they are the lifeblood of the sport. Let's just call it what it is. Yep. We know that, you know that, I know that. But, I mean, this was just – I don't even know what to say. It's so stupid. And I appreciate that Jerome Boger –
No, I don't appreciate anything that guy does in the history of ever.
I appreciate him.
The worst ref I've ever seen.
No, hold on. I appreciate him trying to come out and explain what happened, at least, because most refs don't have the audacity or the
his explanation was stupid.
Hold on. I didn't say give a good explanation.
Okay, all right.
But I respect him for just coming out and at least facing the music because most
guys
wouldn't
even do that.
Say, yeah. So I respect that. However, what he said was beyond stupid, and I have it in front of me, which is why I'm so annoyed, because he said after the game, what I had was the defender grabbed the quarterback while he was still in the pocket and unnecessarily threw him to the ground. That is what I was making my decision based upon. Now, look, I'm not going to pull up the play because we don't even need to bother watching it. It's not even worth rewatching. What do you want him to do? Can somebody please tell me what he's supposed to do at that point? Because if he doesn't take Tom to the ground, right, and he lets Tom, he holds Tom like this, right, and he doesn't throw him to the ground, and Tom still has the ball in his hand, right, and Tom completes a pass. Let's say Tom completes a pass while he's being just bear hug, basically, and he completes a pass, and it goes for 5 yards. Not even a first down, just 5 yards. What was the defender supposed to do? Let him complete that play? You can't let that happen. So to me, it is one of those things where I get you don't want the quarterback to be hurt, and I understand that. But there are certain things he has to do. He brought him down the only way he physically could. Yeah. What more is he supposed to do? I don't understand. I mean, it's mind-blowing to me.
I agree with what you're saying about, like, there's some plays like the Kenny Pickett play where at the end of the game against the Bills, he got his knee dove at back of his knee. Those are acceptable roughing the passer calls. Right. You have that. You have where a guy picks a guy up and puts his weight on, like Anthony Barr did to Rodgers.
Absolutely, that's wrong.
Absolutely, I get it if it's intentional.
Because it's an unnecessary play.
But, like, you can't tell a 300-pound guy who's coming full speed at a quarterback and trying to hit him to think about what he's doing in the moment, slow up. Like, you can't tell a 300-pound guy.
It's
I
not
don't
even
really
that,
care
John,
what weight you are, but you tell Aaron Donald or whatever to, hey, think about what you're doing when you're about to hit a guy. Like, if you do that to Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen.
It's not even that. Forget that for a second. You got to bring the guy to the ground. Yeah. So unless when he ran at him, he
that's
just,
what I'm saying.
Physically grabbed him and brought him to the ground immediately, which would have been roughing the passer, by the way.
I guarantee you, Lamar Jackson,
if he bear hugged him and then just brought him to the ground when he tackled him, I guarantee you they would have called that roughing the passer as well. But that's irrelevant.
But if you try and play that game with Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, they're going to torch you, get out of the grasp, and then burn you.
But John, he has to bring him to the ground. That was the only way he could physically get him to the ground.
No, I know. And that's what I'm saying. Like, according to Boger's explanation.
In that particular scenario, where he has to bring him to the ground, unless, he wants to risk giving up a play like we're talking about, what can you ask him to do? And I ask that rhetorically, and I would ask that to the refs and say, what would you like him to do then? Because if you got an explanation.
It's the question that's not being asked, really.
What?
It's the question that's not being asked, really, because he can't hit him below the knee because that's a penalty.
Exactly, and the problem
hit him
is
neck above. That's a penalty. At
this point, there is nothing you can do to a quarterback, and we saw it last night again. Last night, Raiders Chiefs, a great game, by the way. It was Frank Clark, right? Correct me. I believe that was Frank. It was Frank Clark. Tackles Derek Carr from behind, which does the right thing, by the way, if you ask me. He then strips the ball. And also, if you watch him, he does his best to brace his fall and not put his full body weight on Derek Carr, which is
that's insane that they have to actually consider that as.
But you know what? But he does it anyway. He does it anyway to the best of his ability. And you know what? Fine. He does everything right. And again, that's called roughing the passer. So again, I implore these refs to explain. What are they supposed to do? Because you keep telling us what we can't do, what these players are not supposed to do, and that's fine. But you need to tell them what they can do, or they won't be able to do it. Because nobody knows what a catch is. Nobody knows how to tackle a quarterback. Nobody knows how to play this game anymore because everything we do is wrong.
Why can Tom Brady try and kick Grady Jarrett? Did you see that?
He's Tom Brady.
He tried to kick Grady Jarrett after
because
Grady
he's Tom
Jarrett
Brady. He can do whatever he wants.
And that wasn't a penalty.
No.
Jay, how's that not a penalty when Tom Brady literally stuck his foot out and tried to kick Grady Jarrett?
He did. I mean, it's almost to the point where it's like, you know what? I think the NFL, and I think we're all in agreement here. This is what I feel. I've always felt this way, for I don't know how long, but they're quarterbacks, but they're football players too. Otherwise, don't get on the damn field. Period.
Yep.
You're getting paid millions of dollars. You know what you're getting yourself into. You know there's a risk, and you still chose to go behind center.
Yeah.
Okay, and you've had quarterbacks, big as Tim Tebow, 240 pounds. He's bigger than some linebackers and safeties. You got some quarterbacks like Donovan McNabb, who's the same size. You've had the late Jared Lorenzen. He was almost 300 pounds. You know what I mean? These quarterbacks ain't Doug Flutie size no more. You know what I mean? They're bigger physically as well. Everyone talks about the defensive backs and the running backs and the linebackers, and that's cool. Yes, they are bigger, faster. Quarterbacks are getting up there in size too. Peyton Manning was 6'5", 230.
You know what? Here's the thing. I am all for protecting your players. I don't need to see guys get slammed to the ground.
We don't need to see the Tua thing.
There was a play a couple weeks ago, and I don't remember which game. So you'd have to, if one of you remembers. I want to say it was against. I think it was Chargers Chiefs. When I think it was Derwin James picked up, I think it was Travis Kelce.
Yep.
Picked him up and slammed him.
That was amazing.
Right. But if they call a penalty on that, okay, I'll accept it because I can understand maybe it's a little too much.
That's football, man.
But to me, if they call a penalty on that, I'll accept it because I'll say, I understand that they're saying, okay, that was too dangerous. He could have got concussed when you slam him on his back, right? His head could smack. Fine. I'll accept that, and I'm cool with that because he didn't need to do that. He could have brought him down on his side instead of slamming him down.
That was pretty bad.
Whatever. So, and it was cool. But again, if they call a penalty on that, I'm not upset. That's just I understand that might be a little too violent. But there's a difference between tackling a guy and potentially seriously injuring him like that, where it was kind of flashy and unnecessary, but still cool, of course, versus just tackling a quarterback and bringing him down because you don't want to let him potentially make a play because he's still standing. And that's why I'm so heated and annoyed by this. There's a difference.
I have a couple points on this once you're done.
Yeah, it just, to finish this up, there is a difference between unnecessary, slamming a player like that and just bringing a guy down. I'm cool if you want to protect your players, but there's got to be a hard line, not this, razor thin fine line that we've clearly drawn that nobody even understands what it is. And it's something's got to be changed. It's not going to be, but something needs to be.
Speaking of that, first of all, last week, but not this week, but the week before, guess who was the ref in the Josh Allen game against the Ravens? Guy who made that call, Jerome Boger. Same guy made the call that cost the Ravens that game. Same exact play. Roughing the passer, and that wasn't a penalty to me. That was not a penalty. Josh Allen, he threw a temper tantrum, threw his hands down, pointed at the ref, and then got his call. And
then he got what he wanted.
I think that they should experiment with either being able to you get it like a challenge where you one challenge a game where you can challenge a roughing the passer or something like that.
I'd be okay with that.
Or if it's at a certain points in the game, kind of like under 2 minutes, only the refs can look at it.
Sure.
Certain points in the game, the refs or whoever in New York should be able to look at these calls like a roughing the passer. Certain points in the game under 2 minutes or whatever. However you want to figure that out, I don't really care. If you figure out the semantics of that.
Sure.
But I think there should be something where it's reviewable. Not every play. Not every single time because you're going to slow the game down too much. You're going to ruin the game of football by doing that because you can't do that.
But there needs to be a clear line in the sand about what can be challenged, what can't be.
But there should be able to be a challenge or review or some combination so we can because these are game changers. These are absolute game changers. You have guys 3rd and 15, it's the end of the drive, and you're getting the ball back. And it's a sack, and it's a big play, or it's a strip sack fumble, and it doesn't count because you tackled him too hard, or the ref didn't think it looked quite right. So now that's a first down, and they get 15, and they get to continue driving. It's too much of a game changer, and you got to figure out a way. You can't go crazy. You can't overreact, but
you can't let the refs take over the game like
this.
And I think that's
a
a good final point to leave this on because we do have to wrap things up. So, Jay, we'll throw it to you first. Let you start this off. First of all, thank you as always for coming on. But tell the people where they can find you, my man.
Well, so first off, later on tonight, here in about an hour and a half, is the season 1 finale of Confidential. So please tune in. It's going to be hosted by Jordan Long. Jacob Christian is going to be with us. About a 30-minute episode. All of this is just an ALDS preview. That's all. We'll talk about some of the games earlier today. We will be back full force in February. We're going to have a one-off episode in November after the World Series, another one off in December and in January, and then again we'll be full force in February. Thanks to everybody who had tuned in. If you got the chance to watch it this season, and next season we're gonna have a different start time, not so late, and yeah, we'll just go from there. Also, Gauntlet is Friday nights now, so Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern with myself. James Philly Jim, James Tatum, JJ Jenkins, and Dom DeRubis. Also Basketballs on Sunday and Pundit tomorrow night on Wednesdays.
Jay
as well.
Is everywhere. John, real quick.
Yeah, Blue Hawks 13. I'm like the worst Twitter follow, but follow me anyway.
All right, guys. You can find me on Twitter at Jake_Malik. You got all the stuff scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Just check us out. Look up Sideline Sports. And on that note, we will see everybody next time. And everybody have a good one.